Hey everyone, welcome to This Explainer. Okay, today we are diving into something super fascinating, but honestly kind of alarming. We're going to unpack the hidden dangers of blindly agreeing with others. We'll look at how to spot the subtle signals of this trap, and much more importantly, how to build a robust mental immune system to protect your life's essential coordinates. If you've ever felt like your own opinions just get totally drowned out in a crowd, well, This Explainer is exactly what you need.
So let's just kick things off with a really simple question. How often do you find yourself just nodding along with someone, purely because it's the path of least resistance? Seriously, think about it. We live in this massively complex social jungle, and from a very young age, we're basically trained to be agreeable. Be a team player, listen, just go with the flow. It's a survival strategy to lower social friction, and yeah, it definitely makes life easier. But when does this harmless little habit actually turn into a dangerous flaw? Well, while society constantly praises us for being agreeable, making a habit of it morphs into something genuinely dangerous. The source material calls it cognitive laziness. It's not just being polite, it's an active refusal to process reality with your own independent logic. When you constantly default to, oh, I have no idea, or you just parrot the room to keep the peace, you aren't just smoothing things over. You are systematically stripping away your own self positioning, the very foundation of how you establish yourself in the real world.
And here is where we hit a really critical difference. Look, staying quiet in unfamiliar territory, that's just smart. If you don't know the first thing about rocket science, by all means, let the rocket scientists speak. But when this go with the flow mentality bleeds into your familiar territory, the places where you actually have deep experience and hard-earned knowledge, habitually agreeing with others is absolutely no longer humility. It is a surrender. It's a total erasure of your own identity.
Because when you hand over your judgment in the domains you actually know well, you're sending a very specific, very dangerous message to the world. You're basically saying, hey, I have no boundaries and I have no stance. You become an empty vessel, and an empty vessel, well, that can be filled by absolutely anyone's agenda. This habitual agreement acts like a chronic energy drain, just slowly wearing away your authentic connection with reality until someone else's priorities completely become your own. Which forces us to rethink a really common misconception. We hear all the time that having firm positions means you're just biased or prejudiced, and you need to let that go to be open-minded. But in mature social dynamics, your position isn't a prejudice at all. It is your coordinate. It's the exact point on the map where you stand. It's the absolute bedrock of your survival and your quality of life in society. So, what exactly makes up this coordinate? It's not some abstract philosophical idea. It's built from three highly tangible things in your familiar territory. First, your core interests and needs, what actually matters to you. Second, your professional judgment, the expertise you've rigorously honed. And third, your established network of relationships. These elements collectively create your positioning. If you don't champion your own ideas in the areas you know best, you give these up. You completely lose your footing. Without this positioning, you are essentially just drifting out there. It's like being an anchorless ship, completely unsure of what to protect or what to fiercely refuse. And honestly, it leads to a terrible tragedy. Sitting in your own seat, living your own life, but thinking with somebody else's brain. A person without coordinates doesn't just lose arguments, they lose their agency. They become a mere passenger, driven by whoever speaks the loudest. Okay, so how do we protect these coordinates? We have to build what's called mental immunity. This is the ultimate psychological defense mechanism you absolutely need when facing down hostile or manipulative conversational traps. When you have this immunity, you have a clear position, firm boundaries. You don't just panic or surrender the fruits of your hard work just because someone uses aggressive language against you. You hold your ground. I'm going to shift gears here for a second to something much more serious, because we need to look at a very grim, real-world cautionary tale that reveals exactly what happens when this mental immunity fails. We're looking at the tragic case of Su Mao. He was a highly successful tech entrepreneur, an absolute expert in his field with clear, objective achievements. Yet in his private life, when faced with someone else's manipulative language, he suffered a fatal loss of his logical boundaries. Despite his professional brilliance, he was completely controlled by manipulative threats. It was a rapid, fatal psychological descent. First, he yielded to threatening language rather than trusting his own reality. Then, he actually accepted a totally false, weaponized logic constructed by the other person. And finally, driven by that manipulation, he completely abandoned his own self-positioning.
He surrendered his coordinates to someone actively trying to tear him down.
In the heat of that disastrous interaction, because he lacked a firm internal logical loop to defend himself, he forgot his most basic life roles. He forgot his bottom line as a law-abiding citizen. He forgot his immense responsibility as an employer to his loyal staff. And he forgot his duty as a son and a brother. Because he failed to hold his coordinates against a relentless psychological attack, he ultimately lost his life and let down the allies who trusted him most.
This is a stark, heartbreaking reality that proves a massive point. When someone is easily controlled by the words of others, it's almost always because they lack their own complete closed-loop logic. When you blindly agree with someone else's twisted logic, you are not just being polite. You aren't just keeping the peace. You are committing an act of total self-exile. You are banishing yourself from your own life, handing the keys of your existence over to someone else.
So bringing this right back to you. Life is constantly, and I mean constantly, trying to drown you in other people's voices. Agreeing is incredibly easy because it spares you the immediate pain of thinking and the risk of confrontation. But you have to remember this crucial rule. Every single unprincipled agreement cedes ground to someone else. You are giving away pieces of your personal territory inch by inch every time you nod along without actually agreeing. To stop this kind of logical manipulation in its tracks, you've got to put an active defense strategy into practice. First, start by recognizing the signals of your own cognitive laziness. Notice when you're just agreeing to make things smooth. Second, absolutely stop going with the flow in the domains you actually know well. Trust your expertise. Third, build an independent logical framework so emotional threats don't sway you. And finally, dare to stand firm. Accept that people might call you stubborn or arrogant. That is 1,000 times better than losing your coordinates in the tide of other people's agendas.
I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on as you navigate your own social and professional networks moving forward. In a world completely full of traps and hidden agendas, are you holding your coordinates and anchoring your own ship, or are you just drifting away on someone else's tide? Keep your mental immunity strong, guard your territory fiercely, and never apologize for having your own thoughts. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.